Hello and welcome everyone, this is Blackadder at Blackadder's Place, and as you can tell, this video will be about the upcoming Age of Mythology expansion Tale of the Dragon. Recently we were given a detailed logo, a proper resolution of the original mini picture we gleaned some info from after the initial release, and also an actually in-game screenshot featuring tons of new info about the new civilization. So, what do these two pictures actually tell us? If you've watched my previous video understanding theories as to whom the three gods could be, you might remember that the best guess seemed to be indicating one new civilization, the Chinese, and that on the left it seems like we have the divine farmer Shenong, signified by his close proximity to nature, on the right the creator of mankind Niva, the snake goddess, and the middle one probably some of the famous emperors as the boss, the Jade or Yellow Emperor. And, well, looking at this full resolution picture, seems like we were quite right. The one civilization in Chinese is pretty much set, with Niva on the right holding the molding of a man, and Shenong on the left holding his traditional leaflet and leaf clothing being quite obvious now. The middle boss is still a bit of mystery. He could be either one of the mentioned emperors, but the popular opinion right now is that the overall theme will be the three sovereigns, which would put the main god as Fuxi, the co-creator of mankind with his sister Niva and inventor of many other things, amongst which stands out Chinese writing, which is the main theme of his depiction here. He is holding tablets with symbols in his right and a stylus in his left hand. Well, all seems to fit here, so you might just be right about the whole trio being the Chinese three sovereigns. What do you think? Moving on to the other picture we were given, the nicely detailed screenshot tells us a real wealth of information. By the way, here's a tip. You can get a more detailed picture by deleting the resolution in its link, or simply by clicking on the picture right now. So let's have a look around, shall we? First off, we get a confirmation of the Asian theme on first sight. The architecture is just too evident, together with some other things like the bamboo trees, which seem to be the only new environment feature on the picture. If we compare the buildings to some other we know, then starting with the TC, we see a rather standard layout with their fireplace and all, with an oddity being that the god statue is actually missing in the left corner. That might be intentional, as to keep the real gods a bit of a mystery before their reveal, or to signify that the Chinese will not rely on good worship at all. But really, at this stage, who knows? On the left of the TC we have a military building that is quite reminiscent of Age of Empires 2 Town Center, but here it bears additional signs of being a home to both cavalry and archers. Cavalry by the obvious horse butt on the roof on the right, and archers by the practice targets on the left. By the way, the grey horse butt actually seems to be a glitched texture or something, if you were to go by the color of the horses units here and elsewhere in the game. So all in all, maybe some cavalry archers are coming. Could be. Atlantean's counter barracks also have both signs and produce turmas. To the right of the TC we then have a rehashed version of Greek Military Academy, so that's a pretty safe bet to be the home of Chinese infantry. Then we see around a bunch of houses that are just confirming that we won't see any new mechanism like with Hans in AOC, who started full pop without the need to build houses, and the last but immensely important building is the storage house on the right. That's quite obviously a complex gathering point for all three resources, with granary on the left, wood in the basement, and gold on the roof. So we now know that the Chinese will bring a new way of gathering resources, a fixed building like Aegean Greeks, but accepting everything just like Norse Oxcart. Nice. And since we've ended the buildings with Echo, let's start with Echo units here as well. On the right side we can clearly see the villagers gathering gold and also doing what they do best, standing idle and waiting to be raided. This is good news to overall gameplay, as you won't see any risky experiments like with Atlanteans, meaning we're getting back to some time-proven standards of the real-time strategy games genre. All three seem to be the same, so there probably won't be a division like with Norse fillies and dwarfs. Moving to the left, we notice the first range military unit, holding a crossbow, so I think we can reasonably assume those are going to be some variation on Chukonus, as that is pretty much a staple Chinese ranged unit. If previous games like Age of Empires 2 are any indication, these guys should be pretty strong. Right above them we see a regiment of spearmen, with a few stick guys around the TC. I can only assume those two will be differently upgraded versions of the same unit, or, here's an idea, those four near the TC could be some kind of variant of Eggy mercenaries. Maybe some kind of militia? Their placement is rather conspicuous, so I definitely wouldn't rule this out. As for the original spearmen under the barracks, they seem heavily armored, so might work similarly to Greek hoplites as an all-around decent unit rather than Egyptian spearmen. Moving on to cavalry now. We have two types here. The ones on the bottom are standard sword cavalry, so nothing groundbreaking, but the ones on the top, these could be real interesting. They seem to be holding some kind of stick, which might be just some spear, but actually also a bow. This would fit with the stable archery building, and also the fact the Chinese actually have a long and rich history of mounted archery. It's kind of their thing, with archery being highly regarded in the past. So yeah, it would make sense. And now we're getting to the interesting part. The glowing figures are obviously heroes, and they seem to be traditional monks and similar to Egyptian priests. If their mechanism is going to be similar, that's hard to say, but if I had to guess, I would put them as melee units rather than ranged, and if cliches of Uber fighters are to be followed, they will be very strong against myth units, but also against human soldiers, which would mean either a higher cost or limit on their number. We'll see, I guess. The last but best is the white tiger, which is as cool as it sounds. That it's not just a generic animal asset is signified by the golden bracelets on its legs. I haven't seen wild tigers making jewelry yet, meaning it can only be the first revealed Chinese myth unit. What will be its abilities? Well, time will only tell. So that's it. That's the new info we get from the two release pictures so far, and when you look at it, it's actually quite a lot. Interesting buildings, units and mechanisms, and also confirmation that the expansion is fully developed in-house, and not just a part of a fan-made mod, which was a running theory in the community. I'm personally quite glad to see that the devs are going the whole way. Well, right now then we just need to wait for more info and keep waiting for the ever nearer release date, which should be later this year. By the way, if you've gleaned some more info from the pictures that I managed to miss somehow, be sure to post in the comments so that all the fans can share in the knowledge. Thanks! And overall, what's your take on all the new things? Do you like them? What would you like to see in the expansion? Post as well. All opinions are welcome.